In 2026, The Elder Scrolls Online runs on trade bars. And if you're not sure what that means, this video has you covered. I'll be breaking down everything you need to know about this new currency, how you earn them, where to spend them, and how the whole system works year-round. So firstly, what are trade bars? They're a permanent account-wide currency for earning collectibles, cosmetics, and other rewards through gameplay. If you're familiar with event tickets, they were retired and automatically converted at 1 ticket to 100 trade bars with Update 49. Here's what makes trade bars different, and honestly, a lot better. First, there's no cap. You can hold as many as you want. There's no more stressing about hitting the 12-ticket ceiling and losing currency. 2. There's no expiration. These trade bars don't reset between seasons or events. You can save and stack this currency as long as you want. And 3. Unlike event tickets, there's no way to purchase them with crowns. Trade bars are purely an earned currency. It's also worth mentioning that items you buy with trade bars can't be gifted or traded. You can see how many you have in the currency tab of your inventory. And since they're account-wide, all of your characters share the same balance. Now, let's look at how to earn them. There are currently 4 major sources for trade bars. Tamriel Tomes is your primary source, ESO's new seasonal progression system. Each season has a free track and an optional premium upgrade track. To be clear, tome points and trade bars are separate currencies. Tome points unlock pages and rewards in the tome, and are earned by completing weekly and seasonal challenges. Trade bars are claimed with your tome points, as one of the claimable rewards on the tome pages. Season 0's rewards include 9,000 trade bars on the free track, and the premium track added another 1,500. While we don't know for sure that these values will always stay the same, it's safe to assume this currency will continue to appear in the claimable rewards. The next source is major in-game events that used to award event tickets, but now award trade bars instead, at that 1:100 ratio. Each event has its own method for earning. Sometimes it's a quest, sometimes it's an activity, but the concept is the same. Complete the daily event task, get your trade bars. For example, eating the anniversary cake awards 300 trade bars per day during the Jubilee, and Zeal of Zenithar awards 300 per day for completing the event daily. There's almost always a set amount per day during major events, and you typically can't farm extras this way, but keep an eye out for announced events. As an example, while the night market wasn't your typical event with a daily quest for trade bars, some bosses did drop small amounts of trade bars throughout that were farmable. Trade bars can also be earned through the PvP Veterancy Progression System. This track goes all the way up to 100, and there are 4,500 trade bars to be earned with the first 6-month season. You can make progress using any of the PvP game modes: large-scale PvP battles in Cyrodiil, city and sewer warfare in the Imperial City, or grouped PvP in match-made battlegrounds. AP increases your veterancy rank at a 1:1 ratio, while XP can also be used to level, but at a lower rate. Lastly, trade bars can show up as claimable Twitch drops from watching eligible streams with a linked ESO account. The members of the content team also get giveaway codes that can include trade bars, which they distribute to their communities. So go check out some streams. You might pick up some extra trade bars just by being part of the active community. Now that you know how you can earn them, let's talk about where all those trade bars actually go: the event merchants and the Gold Coast Bazaar. The Impresario is the primary event vendor, appearing around city hubs during major in-game events, with Belkarth Craglorn being the primary festival grounds. If you're not sure how to get to Craglorn during an event, You can find a portal to quickly get there from the festival tent in each alliance's starter zone. She sells the current year's collectible fragments and other event-specific rewards. For 2026, that means the Roseblood Bat Pet Fragments will be available all year. But the Upgrade More Fragments follow a progressive rollout structure. Instead of dropping an entire reward set at once, fragments roll out 1 or 2 at a time during event windows. When a brand new fragment debuts, what we've typically seen lately is that it will be featured as a drop directly inside that event's reward boxes first. This means you can potentially save your trade bars by actively participating in the event and pulling that fragment straight from gameplay. Once a fragment's debut event ends, it is then added to the Impresario's vendor list for direct purchase with trade bars during subsequent events. But it's important to note that reward sets don't always run back to back, sometimes pausing a specific collectible track to introduce the next quarterly reward before bringing the remaining pieces back to the vendor later in the year. Because of these shifting rotations, the gold standard rule for the Impresario is simple: buy or earn the fragments when they're actively live. If you're not sure which fragments you need to complete the collectible, you can find all the needed pieces and which collectible they'll combine into, listed in the fragments description. Once you have all of the fragments you're after, head to the collection menu to combine them. In previous years, morphing your base pet into an upgrade would consume it. You'd lose the pet and have to rebuy the fragments if you wanted it back for the next morph. But starting in 2026, combining no longer consumes the base pet. You don't even need to have it in your collection to get the upgraded items. Remember that the pet will be there all year, so you should always prioritize the fragments that will change quarterly. But if you do miss a fragment during its active window, don't panic. During the New Life Festival in December, the Impresario historically brings back the entire year's catalog of fragments, giving you one final catch-up window to complete any of the morphs you missed. Our next merchant is Philius Dormier, who is the Impresario's assistant and is available year-round, even when there's no active event. You'll find him at the same event tent locations in capital cities. Each past year introduced a different morphing collectible at the Impresario, and Philius stocks those older fragments from multiple years at once. However, when items leave the Impresario, they don't instantly get added to Philius's stock. He'll start selling each set about 2 years after it's left her stock. Keep the New Life catch-up window in mind for the current year's pieces, because it will be a while before they come back again. His inventory also rotates quarterly, but not everything. Like the Impresario, the base pet fragments he carries are available all year. But the upgraded more fragments are what will rotate seasonally and align with the end of an event. Remember that only one of these upgraded options will be available at a time per collectible set, so you'll have just one 3-month window every year to get the fragments you're after. Philius sometimes has old event drops added into his stock, like replica weapon style pages and holiday achievement furnishings, so check back each event to see what he's currently got in stock. Like the items from the Impresario, these upgraded collectibles no longer require you to buy the base pet fragments to get the upgraded versions. Just focus on the stuff that you want the most. Next is the Indrik Specialist. She's only available during active events, and unlike the 2 other vendors, she can only be found at the festival grounds in Craglorn. She sells Indrik feathers and berries you can use to create the classic Indrik mounts, either the basic Nascent Indrik or one of its many colored variants. The variant depends on which berries are available, and that's where the seasonal rotation comes in. From the start of the year through the Jester's Festival, There are spring berries for the Dawnwood and Spectral Indrik, plus the Springtide and Haunting Indrik pets. From the Anniversary Jubilee through the end of June are the Luminous and Ice Breath Indrik berries, plus the Shimmering and Rime Dusk Indrik pets. Onyx and Mossheart Indrik berries are the fall stock, up from July until just before the Witches' Festival starts, with the Ebon Glow and Sapling Indrik pets. And then there's the winter berry sets for the Pure Snow and Crimson Indrik, plus the Frostlight and Rose Thorn Indrik pets, available during the Witches' Festival through the end of the New Life Festival. When the season changes mid-event, the rotation lines up with the start or end of whatever event is running at the time. So, like the other fragments, you won't suddenly lose access to berries in the middle of an event. If you're going for a specific Indrik, check which season its berries fall in and plan your trade bar spending accordingly. In the past, the Nascent Indrik was required to get a shiny Indrik, but that's no longer the case. So focus on the Indrik you love the most. Now let's talk about the big vendor edition that came alongside the trade bar system, the Gold Coast Bazaar. Despite the name, the Gold Coast Bazaar isn't a physical location in the Gold Coast zone. It's a dedicated tab inside the Crown Store UI. The whole idea behind the Bazaar is to bring back older rewards that have been unavailable to earn since their original release. Items from past events, Golden Pursuits, Twitch drops, Prime Gaming, daily login rewards, and even some former Crown Store items have shown up here. But the Bazaar is split into two sections, and understanding the difference is important for planning your spending. Gold Coast wares are permanent items that stay in the Bazaar for the foreseeable future. There's no big rush to buy these. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. Examples include the Gold Road Recall Customized Action, the Grand Gallery of Tamriel, Sword Cinder's Redoubt, and a large collection of skill styles. These are your long-term goals that you can save up for at your own pace. Seasonal wares, on the other hand, rotate in and out with each season. For Season 0, the 3-month seasonal selection included items like the Dragon's Treasure Trove furnishing and the Snowdrift Veil Elk Mount. When the next season starts, these items will cycle out, and a new selection will rotate in. Seasonal items might return in future rotations, so if you miss something, it's not necessarily gone forever. But there is no guarantee on timing, so if something grabs your attention, it's worth prioritizing. You'll also notice some items in the Bazaar that were previously ESO Plus monthly free rewards. The Bazaar itself is free to access for everyone, but this specific category requires the subscription. You'll still use trade bars to buy them, but you need an active ESO Plus membership to purchase them. These are part of the seasonal offerings, so if you see one you want and you have the membership, it's worth grabbing sooner than later. With this many places to spend your trade bars, it helps to have a plan. Here's how I'd think about it. First, decide if you want any of the current year's collectibles. The Roseblood Bat Pet is available year-round, so there's no rush on collecting it. But quarterly fragments rotate out. The New Life Festival is your final chance to get any of these pieces that you missed from the Impresario during the year. Second, check the seasonal Bazaar items. If anything is about to rotate out and you want it, prioritize those over items that last. Third, you can check Philius in the Indrik vendor if you're interested in past year collectibles. Remember that most of their stock rotates quarterly, so if you see something you want, grab it before the quarter changes, but know that they will be back eventually. And fourth, save for Gold Coast wares at your own pace. Between the free tome track, events throughout the year, Twitch drops, and Veterancy, you've got a steady flow of trade bars. It's not enough to buy everything immediately, but the fact that trade bars never expire means you can play at your own pace. And that's trade bars fully covered. A special thanks if you stuck with me all the way to the end. I'll see you in Tamriel.